Welcome to Transcending the Rabbit Hole. I'm Brandy Anderson. I'm a spiritual director and Jungian coach on an ever-winding contemplative path of becoming. I'm the author of Through the Veil, A Glimpse into the Afterlife, and co-host of Spectral Symposium podcast. I'm joined today by my very good friends and co-hosts, Annalise and Parker Bess. Annalise is a singer, songwriter, sound healer, and spiritual influencer dedicated to raising human consciousness as she shares her awakening journey on TikTok. Parker is a true knowledge seeker and truth bringer in the realm of esoteric wisdom. Parker has a solid understanding of metaphysical concepts with expertise in the shadowy corridors of secret societies, occult knowledge, and ancient aliens and ufology. We invite you to pry open your third eye and journey with us through the cosmic rabbit hole as we alchemize esoteric insights in a quest for ultimate truth.
Falling down the rabbit hole again.
Welcome to another episode of Transcending the Rabbit Hole. Before we begin today's conversation, we want to share something new. We've launched a Patreon where our members will receive access to our community that we are calling The Burrow. It consists of monthly live Zoom gatherings, a private Facebook group for deeper community connection, and bonus episodes like this one. This particular episode is on the house, a gift to our whole audience. But going forward, our bonus content will be available exclusively through Patreon. So if you feel called to join us in a more intentional way, we'd love to have you there. And today, we're taking time to pause and reflect on recent tragic events and the upheaval and chaos that we're all experiencing pretty intensely right now. Moments like this shake the collective and stir strong reactions, both in the media and in our own hearts. And in this bonus episode, we want to offer a perspective that goes beyond headlines, a perspective rooted in discernment and inner peace. Our aim isn't to feed speculation or fear, but to help us see through illusions, ask deeper questions, and remember our ground of awareness that cannot be shaken. Annalise and Parker, it's a privilege to transcend this rabbit hole with you guys.
Hey, Brandy. Good to be here.
Hey.
It's great to be here.
Yeah, so I'm excited. We're finally doing a bonus episode. I'm really excited about that.
That's good. It's been a rough week and a half now, I guess, for everybody. So I'm glad we're taking a moment to pause, like you said, take a breath, talk about what's going on.
Yeah, it has. I mean, energy is swirling around everywhere. It's just been crazy intense. And I thought maybe, with all of this chaos and dissension kind of swirling in the ether, we could start with what we're feeling in this moment. What about you guys? Annalise, maybe you could share what you're feeling right now, what's coming up for you?
Oh, honestly, I've had a rough week in the internal world as an empath. It's been heavy, and I could tell it wasn't my own personal, me pain. It's a collective cloud kind of pain. And I've been trying to ground and rest and pray and, stay out of the angry slew of things on social media and just kind of use my own discernment as to what's going on. What are they telling us? What does this really look like? All those kinds of rabbit hole questions. So it's been a swirly week, like you said. It's been swirling.
It has. Yeah, what about you, Parker?
Well, yeah, I kind of think the same thing. This energies have been swirling like crazy. I really feel like what happened was a horrible, horrible thing that happened, with Charlie Kirk and the public assassination that happened. But, I also see like everybody's trying to pick sides right now. Like everybody's trying to pick, or at least people are trying to get people to pick sides as well. You got team, Charlie Kirk, and then you got these other, this other team out there that, it wasn't necessarily team Charlie Kirk. And therefore we're just causing like a big you versus me type of thing. And that's what I'm kind of noticing this week, especially. Another odd thing I've noticed, and me and Annalise were talking about this, she actually brought this to my attention, but the funeral for Charlie Kirk was under like a new moon, and I don't think that's a coincidence. I think everything is for a reason, and stuff like that is for a reason. I can't tell you exactly why, but that is really strange to me. So I thought all that this past week was pretty crazy, and those are my observations on that for sure.
Yeah, that resonates. I know my grandmother has told me that the sky has a lot of emphasis on what's happening and unfolding in our physical realm. And there are times when they have more difficulty talking, communicating with us, times when their energy is low. And when we ask why, she'll say the sky.
Yeah.
So it's far more intricate than my finite mind can grasp, but things going on astrologically speaking do affect everything.
Definitely. I was talking with Johnny Barnett today, who we're going to interview on our next episode, who's a professional astrologer, and that's what he said. Like, you're observing this energy in the collective. I bet you feel it, based on how I'm wired. He's like, yeah, it's everybody, because the planets are doing what they're doing, and that pulls on us in a way that we're like purging this collective upheaval, like this just upheaval of energy that needs to come out and shadows that need to be brought to light. And I think, as tragic as it's all been, it's going to lead to more light. I do.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. For me, the energy really has been off since the Ukrainian refugee was stabbed
Mm.
on that train. I mean, I feel like that created a really heavy collective energy.
Yeah.
And then, I have to say also that I don't think it's healthy to watch videos of people being murdered and bleeding out.
Yeah.
I think it does something to the psyche. And sadly, we've come to a place where everything is surveilled, like everything is recorded and then played on loop all over social media. I was
Yeah.
just scrolling my feed, completely unaware that stabbing had even happened because, like, I don't watch the news. And then
Yeah.
suddenly, this video of this poor lady's death was in front of me, and it made me just absolutely sick. And then a couple weeks after that, a local veterinarian was stabbed to death in our local dog park. And it's a really small town, so like we don't have a lot of murders happening, and it just really shook everyone. It generated a lot of heaviness and fear and in the local collective on top of what was already kind of brewing in the overall collective energy that it's just everything was just a stabbing on the train, and then the veterinarian was killed, and then not even a week after the stabbing at our local park, Charlie Kirk is assassinated on camera. And again, there are unblurred videos coming across my news feed like nonstop. And it's just a lot to process. So, I mean, I would just say for me, it feels like there's this static charge lingering in the air. Tensions
Yeah.
are high and people are emotional and on edge. And the
Yeah.
news and the media just fuels that fire. I mean, they're there to create fear, division, and outrage. And when you pull a rubber band back far enough, like it's bound to snap.
Mhm.
But one thing I did want to say is that as I've sat with it all, what keeps coming up for me is that, as a collective, we're on the cusp of the age of Aquarius, and all of that upheaval is just part of that shifting out of the Piscean age. We can't move into those higher states of consciousness without the tower moment, like that breaking away of illusion, exposing the systems, destroying the paradigms. And it is painful and scary, but I think it's necessary. So I've just been trying to center myself, putting space between myself and the events in the world so that I can respond rather than react. So I can maybe have a little perspective and peace in the midst of this chaos. Because the hard part for me is deciding how to engage, because I am an introvert who loves to withdraw and hermit away in my hobbit house in the woods. But I know it's about striking balance and, and engaging with wisdom. So I've tried to just stay engaged without, just completely withdrawing. But, that's the thing I see in the world. There are a lot of people who they don't have that inclination to withdraw. Their inclination is to move forward, and they're doing so without any real forethought. And so it's just like all of this energy is just, like I said, like a static charge in the air. So that's what I'm feeling right now.
Yeah.
Definitely. I think
Yeah.
also a lot of frustration for me at the deception around it all. That the narrative, we're given a narrative on the media, like you were saying, as if that is definitely how it is.
Yeah.
And then all kinds of other things come out, and we're all just collectively like solving this murder mystery,
Yeah.
and trying to follow the breadcrumbs that people are offering, the Candace Owens of the world, and others that are speaking on this.
Yeah.
It's a lot to process, and it feels like we have to do our own homework right now. Like, this isn't a time to just sit back and let the news tell you what's happening and how to respond. I think this goes a lot deeper than just assassinations or just silencing,
Mm.
people. There's a lot at play, and it feels a
Yeah.
little daunting. But I know, like you said, it's Age of Aquarius coming on, so it's got to come to light.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It does feel daunting.
Yeah. I mean, I think the same thing. It's Age of Aquarius is here, darkness to light. It's it's all like kind of happening right in front of us, and it's pretty kind of disturbing if you think about it. Like you were talking about with like you saw it on the social media news feed. Like
Yeah.
we've gotten to such an age where we're all like literally sociopaths to where we can watch somebody get murdered and just be like, oh shit, that was, horrible. And then scroll on to the next video, and,
Yeah.
like you look at those like movies from like the 70s or the 80s, or 90s, even where they're like, like
Yeah.
something way less than that happened, I mean? And now we've gotten to a point where we're just like, wow, that's horrible. On to the next thing,
Yeah, people move on real fast. They'll act very mournful for a week or two, and then just watch them. The next thing comes up on their feed, and they're on. Become so desensitized to
Hmm.
trauma, and to me, I found it odd that, well, not odd. I find it respectful and touching how the world is mourning his death in particular, and the woman on the train. But I find it more odd that we don't mourn more deaths like that are happening everywhere all the time, things that we're not allowed to really even talk about. I hope that it's waking people up to that. You know, where
Yeah.
when are we going to live in a world where there's memorials for every unjustly killed person? Like, it's horrible and it's awful, but also it's happening to a lot of people. And we just can't keep sitting by and watching people be harmed and killed for being who they are and saying what they want to say. And when is it going to be enough? When is enough enough? I don't know. I hope now. I feel like Charlie's death in particular struck a chord more than others. And maybe now enough's enough and people are waking up.
Yeah, 100%. I totally, that resonates. There's just so much information right now, like on social media. It's just like you were saying, it's overflowing with information on Charlie Kirk's situation. But it's like the lady on the train has been forgotten, honestly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not seeing much about that anymore. It's like everybody's attention has shifted. And I really think it's like the media is just driving things. Like whatever the news media
Absolutely.
is saying, look at, that's what people are looking at. This is
Yeah.
like, our attention is just being shifted where they want it to be shifted. But anyway, I think people are just really are tapped into that social media, and they're paying attention to the information that's continually flowing through their news feeds too. So it's really hard to make sense of things. Like when I scroll, which is much less lately because I've just tried to kind of limit myself from social media exposure. Um, I just feel this pervasive energy of confusion and conflict. That's what I keep thinking. It's just so. If you were to really pay attention to what people are posting and read all of these posts. It's information overload, first of all, and that's not good for the psyche. And then, second of all, how could anyone ever conclusively land anywhere or make sense of what's going on? It's just nothing but conflicting opinions swirling around in the ether. So I guess I thought maybe we could, address how do we make sense of things? Like maybe Parker, maybe you could speak into that. How do you make sense of everything? Like what do you see? What do you think is happening all around us right now?
Well, kind of to touch on what you were just saying about the news, they really do control the narrative on a lot of things. Kind of like what Annalise was saying too. Like you don't see the horrible things that are happening throughout the world for the most part because you're not supposed to. You're not supposed to see that stuff because that stuff could harm the whole fabric of what this whole matrix system is for you. For the system that's controlling this country or whatever, for any country for that matter. The
Yeah.
news is going to put out whatever is going to drive, like you were saying, Brandy, fear and confusion because they need two sides. If they don't have two sides, then there's no use for them anymore.
Mm.
And a lot of people are waking up to the fact that they are these, manipulators. And I mean, we all can pretty much see it. One site says one thing, one says the complete opposite. And yet we're still acting like this is nothing more than a game pretty much at this point. So,
Mm.
um, and then with the discernment part, we always say do your own research. And that's like the backbone of everything with me. I see something and then I would, verify it probably like two or three times. I mean, there's always that like catchy thing you see, like, I don't know, everybody sees it, something really cool. Where, oh, wow, that's true. Let me repost this. But then you really got to make sure it's true though, because like you were saying, Brandy, there's a lot of things out there that can confuse people.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, even the internet is pretty, bogged down with, censorship and what's real and what's not real. The things that are real are not there. You have to go on to I think X is the only site that puts out actual things. And when that happens, it also puts out videos of Charlie Kirk getting his head blown off. And I was
Mhm.
like, I was just shocked. Like, I saw that video and it was just like, he's talking and then boom. Like, I was not even expecting that.
Yeah.
But, just pretty much discernment, do your own research, and that's what I do. I just do some research.
Yeah. Yeah, because I mean, like you were saying, the whole system is set up to keep that dualism going, that us versus them, two sides of the equation kind of. So yeah, that really resonates. What about you, Annalise? What do you think when you look out into the landscape of what's going on? What do you think's happening right now?
I'm trying to be real careful of what I
Yeah.
say,
Mm-hmm.
Brandy.
Yeah.
Because if I said what I think, I might not fare much better than Charlie Kirk. So
Mm-hmm.
I have to be careful, as we all realize we do. We live in a world where free speech isn't really free. And I hesitate to believe anything that is the mainstream narrative. I see it as a grand play, what they put in front of us, the circus that is the news. Um, so like Parker, I've done a little digging, like he said, but for the most part, I've retreated and just not not dug because the details aren't for me to know right now. But what I do know is um, this rabbit hole goes far deeper than they're telling us it does. I believe very much,
Mm-hmm.
and I'll leave it there because obvious reasons.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And everyone should be waking up, and you should be angry, and you should be ready to really get to the bottom of things and make some changes for this world. Because I mean, that's what Charlie was trying to do. And as soon as he started trying to do certain things and change certain narratives, we see what happened to him. So we have to be so careful. But how do I cope with it? I don't scroll right now on that stuff. When it all happened, I didn't see the videos on purpose. Thankfully, I know some people that was thrown at them. For me, it was more of a meme, sadly.
Mm-hmm.
And I saw clips that you could see it that, and that the Holy Spirit in me said, "Don't you do that, because that will rip you apart." Because I'm a sensitive soul, as many of us are, and that I like Parker said, you're not meant, and like you said, you're not meant to see that. So I've avoided the news stuff with it and just stuck to the more reading articles. Try not to see the pictures so much. Um,
Yeah.
just prayer and discernment, like Parker said. I can feel things and know things in my knower. Not that I know the facts of every little thing that happened, but I can sense who's lying and who's telling the truth. And honestly, I've learned the smartest thing for me is to go with that.
Mm.
Yeah. Yeah. I think there's a lot of wisdom in that. And like both of you, I don't believe really anything that the government or media outlets are telling me. There's always an agenda, and those who are caught up in the narrative, like those who are listening to this news source or that news source, they're always in an emotional twist, full of
Right.
fear and outrage and just hating the evil other. And I just refuse to play that game.
Yeah.
I opted out of it years ago. I saw through that illusion. And I just refuse to take a side and be pitted against another group of people. That's prime loosh. And if you don't know what I mean by that, go listen to our Loosh Farms episode. But I opted out before my grandmother crossed and began communicating with us. But since I've had conversations through the veil, I became even more aware of the absurdity of it all. Like nothing in this world is really as it seems. It really is an elaborate illusion built to keep us in a low vibration. And as long as we're enmeshed in the overarching narrative, we're trapped. Someone on Thread said the other day, one side of a coin is light, the other side is dark, and the edge is one. Well, that's really it. The edge is that narrow gate that Jesus spoke of, the middle way that holds that tension of opposites with love and awareness. We can't follow Jesus if we're identified with either side of the coin. And I've been reflecting on the words of Robert Frost lately. I even wrote a Substack post about it, but he said, "We dance round a ring and suppose, but the secret sits in the middle and knows." Those words just keep reverberating within me. My social media is full of Christians, whether on the left or the right, thinking that they're holding that line of truth. Like they have the verses, they have the real Jesus, and the other side is deluded, maniacal, hateful. But it's a lie, folks. All of it. I mean, if it causes you to alienate, to judge, and hate others, it's a lie from the pit of hell and not at all in line with what Jesus taught.
Yeah.
Both sides are playing into the narrative created by the powers that be. And Jesus, he didn't get caught up in all of that. He didn't dance around in a ring with the Pharisees and Zealots. He didn't get caught up in that partisan trap. He disarmed that kind of binary thinking entirely. Like when the Herodians tried to trap him by asking, is it lawful to pay taxes? Well, he was wise in his response. If he had said yes, he would have been deemed a traitor by his people. And if he said no, he'd be guilty of sedition against Rome. Jesus, he didn't play that dualistic game. He asked for the coin that bore the image of Caesar, and he said, give to Caesar what is Caesar's and give to God what is God's. In other words, your essence bears the image of God, and that coin bears the image of Caesar. So in other words, ultimate allegiance belongs to God. And it's also why he said, my kingdom is not of this world. The kingdom of the world is that political system, the religious system. It's the game of the progressives versus the conservatives, the in-group versus the out-group, the saved versus the damned. And so as long as we're playing the world's game, we stay divided and we miss that narrow way that Jesus was pointing us toward. And like Annalise said, I want to be careful what I say here, because if you speak too freely on certain things, you do get suicided or assassinated or you get annihilated. And Jesus is an example of this. He wasn't killed for saying, consider the lilies of the field, how they toil not. He was executed for calling out the hypocrisy and corruption of those in power.
That's right.
And if he had preached that same watered down gospel that you hear in churches today, he would never have been crucified. He was executed because he revealed the corruption of the power systems. He said, you brood of vipers, you whitewashed tombs. He never spoke to individuals that way. I mean, sure, he called people into their highest life path, but he didn't berate people. He spoke truth to power. That's what he did. And he revealed the evil within the status quo. And that is why he was executed. And the same thing happens to people still. You can say pretty much any mean, hateful thing you want to say about any group of people, but just don't speak truth to power. Don't poke the bear who's pulling the strings. Because if you expose the systemic evil, you won't last very long in this world. But I do want to say, things really are not what they seem, and the only way we as a collective will persevere is to stop fighting one another, stop seeing the other side as the enemy, and come together and neutralize evil with love. Dr. King said it best. Darkness cannot drive out darkness, only light can do that. Jesus said, love your enemies. And until we stop hating in the name of Jesus and start actually following him, we're going to suffer the effects of divisiveness. We cannot enter the kingdom of heaven while steeped in that dualistic thinking. The Democrats aren't the enemy. The Republicans aren't the enemy. The trans people, the blacks, the whites, the Mexicans, I mean, none of that is the enemy. The enemy is the system that manipulates the narrative and causes us to think that these people are the enemy. And it's time to wake up, step into our power as image bearers of God, and give to God what is God's, and give to Caesar what is Caesar's.
Yeah.
Preach on. That's right.
Great.
That's right.
Sorry, I had a little rant there, but that's another thing. You know, Charlie is saint status with some people, and other people are demonizing him. And here's the thing: he was a fallible human like anyone on a spiritual journey, just like all of us, evolving along like we all are. And I don't believe that it was his Christian rhetoric that caused him to be targeted at all. I believe it was something else entirely. Like I said, you speak truth to power, and things happen.
You speak truth to power, and they take those people out.
Well, really, when you shine the light on the darkness, sometimes, the darkness doesn't just sit back, it will come back after you, and that's what that's what happened. And with this. And also, I want to say this. Brandy was saying it, all but saying it, but these secret society groups, they have been playing everybody like this, using the news, presidents, all kinds of things in power to divide and conquer. That's like the main thing, divide and conquer. Once you do that, everybody who is divided and is conquered, is susceptible to being a sheep at that point, because you're taking orders from the news. You're not thinking, you're not critically thinking. When you are divided like that, you are conquered. And I know some things might seem like, yeah, but all this is happening, and those are good points, but the real main big picture is it's all happening to make you think that way and for them to think a different way. Because when you think differently, like Brandy was saying, it's over with. And when we can come together, it's like those pictures, you see like these like little minnows and then this big, like this shark, but these minnows like team up to make this like giant shark and it chases the other shark off. Like that's how it would be if we actually could do that.
I hope that's how it will be. And I want to say this. I referenced my talk with Johnny Barnett earlier, and he told me today that Parker and I, but he was talking to me specifically. We came into this world with a generation that has this thumbprint on it because of where Uranus and Jupiter were during our birth times. So this is, he said, around 1988 babies to 1997. He said, y'all all came in with this thumbprint to expose the systems, to turn things on their head, to save the world. He said, y'all are the save the world. Like you came in with this feeling of, I'm here to shine light on everything, that all the BS that they've been eating up for centuries. And so Charlie Kirk was in that generation, the same as Parker and me, and that's what he was doing. And he was open minded. People thought he wasn't, but he would debate. I mean, I've seen he would listen, and he started listening to things that not everybody wanted him listening to. And he was open minded, and he uh died for his open mindedness. And I hope that in that death, though, we'll all be inspired to speak that truth. I know he would never want this to make people scared to speak their truth, but quite the opposite, like Parker said, to be the collective that takes down the giant. Because if you weren't already awake, if you weren't already jarred, this past week should have done it, and you should be about ready to flip some tables like Jesus, really. But I agree with what you said, Brandy. I don't think he was killed for his Christian standpoint. I don't think that that's a part of it. I think the powers that be are kind of really more so preying on Christians a little bit with this in the media, like looshing them along, like to like make Charlie
Saint.
their saint and keep them distracted from what's actually behind all this and all of that. Uh,
Yeah.
but that's a big old rabbit hole, and people will have to fall down that themselves.
Yeah, they are making it all about that, the faith, the spirituality of the person. And like I said, I think that's ancillary. I think that really isn't
Yeah.
all that important. I think a lot of people are wondering, like, how do we stay centered in the midst of all of this and live with more discernment, right? Because there is such a swirl around opinions, different opinions about what's happening. Well, I mean, what even happened? There are people who are arguing the point. This happened or that happened, or this was the shooter, or this, no, he wasn't. Yes, he was. All of that is so much conflicting information, opinions, and then strong opinions about Charlie himself. He was a polarizing figure. And that's something we see a lot too. The media, we have all of these people who are so polarizing. And I think it's because the media sets them up in a way to make them be more polarizing. Because if we can get people kind of uh, centered around a certain spokesperson, um, somebody as their leader or their martyr or whatever the case may be, if that person is polarizing, then we have a division and we keep chaos running in the world, and people aren't really paying attention anymore to what's really going on because their eyes are diverted to all of this discord, all around. And so I think it's a mistake, to go too far in either direction. I mean, we can run into the ditch of either way. I mean, it's a terrible tragedy what happened anytime someone is killed. It's terrible. It's a tragedy. But I think, we need to be careful and be balanced in how we sort of process what has happened and what's going on. Because if we're in an emotional frenzy, we can't pay attention in an intelligent way to what's really going on in the world around us. We're just caught up in our emotions. We're just buying into that frenzied energy all around. And so I think people need to, be a little more balanced in the way that they're sort of processing things. But anyway, yeah, so I guess my point was, or the point I wanted to raise was, how do we stay centered and live with more discernment in the midst of all of this?
I'm still figuring that one out right now this week. I mean, if I'm honest, it's been rough, but the thing I do the most is what I said earlier, just rest, uh, go out in nature, ground, and try to kind of hear from the voice within and not all the voices without. And just know that no matter like what's going on, and just be honest, no one knows what's going on. And that's the kind of terrifying thing. No
Yeah.
one has a clue what's happening. Um, but all you can do either way is just, love. And so I've been trying to just focus on that. Just every little encounter I have with people this week, it's been, let me sprinkle some love. Let me, do whatever I can to make someone smile today, whatever, because energies are heavy, but I can fight back. I could do my part, but just honoring, I think, to yourself, and let yourself have moments to cope with hard collective energies or anger or whatever. Yeah, I don't have any great, like, here's how to get through
Yeah.
this apocalyptic feeling time, except just pray and be present and love your neighbor and love yourself, no matter what the narratives are. Because if you treat everybody with love, you did it right. And, I'm sure, yeah, I'll just end there.
Yeah.
How do you stay grounded and centered during hard times, Parker?
Well, that's what I was just kind of giggling about over here because I'm not as emotional as this one is right here when it comes to everything. I,
He gets to breeze on top of those energies like he's surfing.
yeah, like, I mean, listen, it's horrible. I mean, it's horrible what happened. Um, Maybe I am a little bit of a sociopath, I guess, just desensitized to all of this, but I just kind of look at it as more of a, well, the the darkness, the powers that be really took their shot and really tried to inform the masses that, you come against me and then this is what's going to happen to you. So I know that sounds probably like crazy, but
No, it doesn't.
I guess when you get pulled out of the matrix, everything just does kind of seem like a play, kind of like what Annalise was saying. That's nothing to discredit Charlie Kirk and his death and anything like that. But from my own personal perspective, that's just what it looks like to me. Like, I'm not the kind of person that's going to be balling for pretty much anybody, to be honest. That's a public, anything like that. But,
Yeah.
it just looks, to me, it just looks like a play, and
Yeah.
the pieces that are doing the play just kind of line up the way I would imagine them to,
Yeah.
I think once you see through the illusion, you do view things in a more detached kind of way, which that's very Zen-like, right? The detachment. But I will say that real people are suffering the effects of this, of
Oh,
what's
yeah.
going on. And so for me, there is that tension where, I see through the illusion and it's like all of these pawns and chess pieces, and I see it from that angle. And I'm a 5 on the Enneagram, so I'm very much removed from my feeling and filtering things through my thinking. And, but the more I sit with it, though, the more, like I said, scrolling along and seeing that lady on the bus just be murdered and
It's
bleed
horrible.
out. I mean, that it is horrible. And I don't want to be so callous that I'm not moved by other people's pain, legitimate pain and suffering and the tragedies that are happening, even though it is, momentary. And ultimately, everything, is moving towards higher consciousness, and we're all awakening to our oneness. And I can see it in those terms. I also know that in the time being, people are actually losing their lives and people are actually suffering a lot of great tragedies. And I think, like what Annalise said, that Jesus is the example on like how we stay centered and live with more discernment too. Is like not only do we see through the illusion, like you're saying, Parker, I think that's really important. And it does give you perspective and put some breathing room between you and the situation so that you can respond rather than react. And I think that's super important. But I also think to engage the world with love is so important. Because, Jesus, he engaged in the world. He was not of the world, but he was in it. And so it's hard to hold that tension of opposites. It's why people tend to overcompensate in one direction or the other, like either engaging with rage and force, berating the evil other, or withdrawing into passivity and not engaging at all. And I think we're called to engage with love. And for those who are inclined to charge forth full of righteous indignation, I think there's wisdom in stepping back, taking that pause and practicing some mindfulness before taking that action. Make sure you're acting and engaging from a place of genuine love, from an open-hearted posture, not trying to just drive out evil with evil. And that's what I see going on all through my news feed, when I'm scrolling. When I do scroll, I will say that I've not been scrolling much lately because of that. It's just too much.
Yeah.
And for those who would be more inclined to maybe passively sit back and watch the world crumble while waiting to be raptured away into heaven, and that's another thing I'm hearing people talk about. What is it, Tuesday we're supposed to be raptured? The rapture's coming Tuesday?
I thought it was last week.
Oh, gosh, I missed it. Well, I'm still here, so I guess I missed the rapture. But,
yeah, I guess
you know,
it's like the fifth time I've missed
Missed
it,
it
I
again.
guess.
be the salt and light, people. Like,
Yeah,
engage
you are
the world with love.
second coming. It's you.
Yeah. So, yeah. And I've also noticed that no matter what you say or where you land on any given issue, people are going to love you and people are going to hate you. And, some people are going to cheer you on while others will tear you down. You absolutely cannot ever please everyone. So don't even try to play that game, right? Like, just seek truth at all costs. Keep your heart open and be true to yourself. Don't take a side. Be intentional about seeing the light of God in everyone, even or maybe even especially those who spew hate in your direction. That's the spiritual practice. It isn't sitting on a cushion in meditation or going on sabbatical or singing songs in a church service. It's engaging life and all of its difficulty with an open heart. Every moment is a chance to channel the love of God. And I'm reminded of something Ian Thomas said. He said, every day the world will drag you by the hand yelling, this is what's important, and this is important, and this is important, and you need to worry about this and this and this. And each day it's up to you to yank your hand back, put it on your heart, and say, no, this is what's important. So, yeah, I think we all need to yank our hand back and remember what's really important. Turn off the news and go be a conduit of love in the world.
Yes, I love that, Brandy. Who said that?
Ian Thomas.
Ian Thomas. I need to
Yeah.
put that on our wall somewhere.
Really,
Yeah.
because I am not political. Those who know me know I'm truly not. I have opted out of all of that binary thinking a long time ago, and I'm not, and I see we're all a mixed bag. Every one of us have, we have our faults and we have our, virtues, and none of us are getting everything right, and we're all in process. And so, I don't play that dualistic game, but I see in my news feed so much dissension. And it's, the evil other out there is just, I don't care what side somebody's on. I even posted a non-dual type post recently, and it got shared by someone who, when they shared it, their little caption was very dualistic, very, like, if you don't like what I'm saying, just unfriend me now. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh.
People have said that. I've seen.
Yeah.
And they'll share like a picture of Charlie Kirk. If you don't like this.
Yeah.
And it's strange to me too, what a Facebook feast this has been. Which is gross to me. I don't know. Because it is such a play and such a game. It's just like a mockery. It's just, he's killed in broad daylight, and then it's plastered all over every website for people to share, and his murder to just be seen, and, that just to pop up for people. And then people start picking teams. Like, I'm going to share this and say my piece on my Facebook. And because if I do that, I change the world. We've got a bunch of Facebook warriors, but what we need are real world warriors who can do something about this and look a little deeper than the narrative and help us dig out of this hole that they've got us in.
What we need is critical thinkers is what we need, not people who are, like you were saying, getting drugged by the hand to be told what to think and what to say, and, shove words in your mouth for you to just spit at somebody else. People, think with your brain. That's why you have one. Everybody, if you listen to me, if you are getting all of your information from the news, I want you to turn that off and think with your brain about why all this is happening. You will come to find out that everything that news channel said was about half true. Maybe even like a quarter of it was probably true. The other news channels telling you the other quarter. It's all just a big jumbled up mess, and you're never going to be happy, and you're never going to be satisfied watching that. And if you're an older person, I don't know why, but that's the horriblest channel to watch daily, like all day long,
It's comforting for them. It's routine. It
know,
was grandmama's favorite. My grandmother, if I come over, what you want on the TV? Turn it on Fox News, sugar. Turn it up real loud. Real loud.
I'm sorry I'm sounding so direct here, but I'm telling you.
It's like I'm developing a tick, Grandmama. Can we turn it off?
Yeah.
I can't.
it's just so low vibrational lies you're hearing,
Yeah.
almost all day long there. So,
Well,
yeah.
I think the older generation, and I've heard people in that older generation talk about how the news used to just be news, they
Yeah.
thought anyway. Just a person would come on and report facts, like no debating, no
Mm.
opinion. It's like just a detached person would come and read off or list off these facts of what was going on in the world. And that has been lost.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
news channels we have today are not like the news of the past, or at least what we perceive the news of the past. Who knows what it really, maybe there was an agenda then also. But yeah, so that generation, they want to believe the news, right?
Yeah.
And the alternative is having uncertainty and a lot of chaos. And so that's uncomfortable. So it's a lot easier to just say, well, I'm going to trust this news source, as my ultimate authority. And I know when I was seeing on my news feed, Charlie Kirk has been shot. I didn't know who he was. I had to Google who he was. I didn't even know. And then I started to see come through my news feed, different clips of him doing those debates or whatever. And I got to admit, it's just a lot of it is very off putting. And I thought, goodness, And then, but then other people are defending him and it's just this big swirl of tension.
Mhm.
And I feel like the truth is somewhere in the middle, like what Parker was saying. It's like you're not going to get all of the truth from one source, not
Yeah.
hardly. It's all mixed in. There's some truth in all of it. And yeah, and in the middle somewhere, in that
If you
tension of
can see it.
opposites,
Yeah.
yeah, there's truth in the middle of all of that, but we have to be able to hold it with wisdom. And you're not going to be able to find truth if you're all or nothing kind of thinking. If you're going to,
Right.
oh, I'm on this side, or I'm a Republican, and so I hate all Democrats, or I'm a Democrat and I hate that kind of thinking. You'll never arrive at truth because truth is in that middle way. It's a more balanced perspective, and that kind of brings me to, there's all these conspiracies and conflicting information swirling around about what's been going on. And we can't help but see these things if we're still on social media. So how do we know what's true? I guess that's the thing. People are, so certain that they have all of the truth
Mhm.
or their opinion is the only opinion. How do we process this onslaught of information in a way where we aren't misguided or caught up in a lie or,
Mm.
yeah, how do not taken down the river somewhere? How do we stay in truth? How do we discern truth? I guess that's the question I'm asking. What do you guys think?
Coming up. Mm.
I guess just what I would just say is what I said the last time, just research and use discernment because I mean, listen, you don't need somebody telling you what is right, what is wrong, what is moral and what is not. You can use discernment and tell, when you do your own research, it goes a long ways. And I'm telling y'all, like, if you just like the whole Republican Democrat, just forget that. Like, just the platform X is the only platform that's going to produce any type of like independent journalism, any kind of like real world in the news type of news, not Fox News, not scripted news, not news that was typed up on a teleprompter by somebody who has an agenda. Like these are people who are in the situation most of the time. And that's the thing. Like when you have independent journalists, which is what X is taking over the news stream media because there's so many niches with so many independent journalists. The news is just factual and better. Nobody's trying to lie because everybody's getting fact checked for the most part, if anything big happens. So I would just say, for myself, I like to fact check. I like to do my own research. X is a great platform for that. Of course, you'll find some craziness or you'll find some not true things, but a lot of the time, you can look at comments and people are asking AI if this is true or what, it's the best platform for anything that you want to find out throughout the world. And like Annalise was saying, she feels the collective heaviness of everything. Well, it's not just within our country. That's just what you see.
Mm.
Like on my X account, the whole world is in upheaval. The whole entire
Mm.
world is, especially the Western countries. Every single Western country you can think of that has allowed my mass migration has had massive protests throughout all the Western countries. Everybody's in upheaval. And then you have Nepal, like our generation of people, they burnt down the government and took all the politicians out and just did God knows what to them because they shut down the country's internet and tried to be corrupt. So you see, there's a lots of things that are happening that's horrible. We got the wars going on. There is massive, massive amounts of energies from all over the world that are swirling, right? It's not just Charlie Kirk, that's just another drop in the bucket. But from a world perspective, like, yeah, I mean, the darkness is rearing its head for sure, and I think the light is trying to break through, but darkness to light, that's the saying.
Yeah, that really resonates, Parker. I would just say also that like the social feeds feel like a lightning storm right now. And I even almost deleted my apps. I was close to just taking a break for a few months, but I decided instead that I would try to engage with some mindfulness and just limit my scrolling. But people are being pulled hard in various directions, like we've been saying. I don't know, there's a lot of conspiracy theories swirling around, and I think some people just sort of jump down the rabbit hole and get lost in the weeds of information, and they end up perpetuating fear and sometimes misinformation, which is just really unhelpful. And that's what you were saying, like on X, you may find some of that, although on the other side, there are people who demonize conspiracies altogether and they're just completely closed off to the idea that any of the conspiracy theories might hold any truth. And I just want to say that the term conspiracy theorist has been deliberately used as a weapon to
Yeah.
discredit voices who question prevailing narratives. In
Yep.
1967, the CIA issued a memo to use that term disparagingly to discredit critics of the Warren Commission's report on the JFK assassination. So the term became weaponized by the government specifically to marginalize and dismiss concerns about power structures. So that's how it started being used as a derogatory term. And so today it's readily used to label anybody who questions the dominant narrative. It's associated with irrationality and ridicule to discredit, certain arguments. Rather than engage in an intelligent way, people would just resort to that label to discount certain voices. And I think that that's tragic. But again, I just want to reiterate that I think we can all get out of balance with anything. And some people do sort of lose themselves in the conspiracy rabbit holes. And I think that's unhelpful. But the truly irrational and ridiculous approach is to believe whatever the government and news media is telling you. We should all be questioning narratives and thinking for ourselves. And anyone who would label you in a disparaging way for doing that is either, I don't know, protecting their own corruption or the corruption of the system they identify with. I think there's a way to, yeah, I think there's a way to engage with balance, something beyond naivety, where we are open to the idea that what we have always thought, what we were conditioned to believe, and what we even feel strongly about may not be so. I mean, it may not be the way we think it is. We may not have it all figured out, I guess is what I'm saying. And I think we have to be careful not to fall into cynicism and armor ourselves against opposing views. I mean, even if we don't like who's saying it, or maybe we don't like how they're saying it, maybe consider that there are bits of truth sprinkled, within all of the rhetoric. We just kind of have to mine it out, I think. And it's unwise to simply swallow up everything that comes across our news feed, of course, but we shouldn't be dismissive either. To entertain an idea doesn't mean we have to adopt it, but we can't expect to know the truth if we're living closed off to certain ideas or voices. Like truth transcends ideology. Truth is non-dual, like I was saying earlier. Yeah, so for me, it's about noticing my own triggers. That's my work first and foremost, is to notice my own triggers. If something triggers me, that's my shadow work. The trigger is pointing to where I'm unintegrated. And if I'm triggered, the last thing I need to do is make a post or speak into what's happening. It would just be a projection, and that's super unhelpful.
Yeah.
And secondly, it's about engaging with an open heart. Do I feel an expansive energy of non-attachment and equanimity, or do I feel constricted? And if I feel that constriction, then I don't engage. My problem is me, not the other person. I think it's helpful if we learn to center ourselves first and then respond and interact and engage from there. And I think that would help a lot, because what I see in the world at large, there's evil brewing and a lot of tragedy. And like you were talking about, Parker, it's worldwide. It's not just the Charlie Kirk incident. I mean, it's rampant everywhere, and we see evil outbursting all over. But really, we perpetuate it because we take a side. We pick a team and we become cheerleaders on the sidelines, and we get caught up in the drama. And so we as a people have to learn to view these things with some perspective in a non-dual way. I mean, Jesus said as much. He was like, I forget the exact quote. I quoted it in a Substack the other day, but it's something like with the single eye. When you see with a single eye, what you see is good. But then when you see with an evil eye, you perpetuate evil, something like that. In other words, if you're looking at things with that single eye is the non-dual way. And that evil eye is the dual way. So when we look out and we start to judge, label, and divide, well, we're perpetuating evil, even if our intentions are good. So I think that's really what it boils down to, just being able to see and be non-dual.
I agree so much. For me, like you said, picking sides, from the moment this kind of popped on everybody's news feeds, I haven't had an urge to pick a side. My team is Team Truth. And
Yeah.
I don't care what that looks like, but of course my heart aches for Charlie, his family, his friends, his parents. Also, the boy that they said shot him. My heart aches for his parents, his family. The girl on the train, their families. I can ache for everybody, but also say, there's more here than meets the eye, like you said. My hope is that Charlie's death or the woman on the train, and I hate to keep calling her the woman on the train, but I'm not. Her name is difficult to pronounce, and I don't want to jack it up right here. But my hope is that people will carry forward the spirit that Charlie had to speak his truth boldly, whether we agreed with it or not. He had a mission on his heart to create discourse that would, in his hope, strengthen the nation. And whether you agree with him politically or not, surely he knew that he was at risk for speaking the things he was speaking, just like Martin Luther King, just like John Lennon. So I hope that we can honor that spirit and speak our truth boldly here on the podcast, but also here just collectively, not to let his death or anyone's death keep us quiet, but
Yeah.
we have to find ways to, I think, speak truth safely. I hope some good comes of this, all of that to say. I hope some really good knocking down the walls of the system and exposing the truth comes from this.
Yeah, I think that's very well said. And well, what keeps coming up for me as I look out at all of this that's kind of going on, all of that dualism, and people are arguing their points, their opinions, pushing their own agendas. I think it's important to remember that we're all operating at our own level of consciousness. And all of life is designed to bring us what we need to awaken us. So even things that we feel are awful are really just necessary aspects of the evolution of human consciousness, which I think that's what you were driving at earlier, Parker. Not to be callous about it, but everything belongs. I think it's Richard Rohr. He wrote a book called Everything Belongs. And basically, what he's saying is everything is unfolding the way that it needs to for our highest and best good, even, or maybe even especially the unfavorable things. And Eckhart Tolle says it too. He says you're having the experience that you need to have. And I often say all of life is designed to awaken us because everything is spiritual practice. And when we realize that and we let go of trying to force outcomes in other people and allow them to be where they are, we can stop blaming and judging. And it's how Jesus could say, hanging from the cross, forgive them for they know not what they do. The people who crucified him were asleep. They weren't able to do better at their level of consciousness. But who among us has never operated out of a limited consciousness? We've all said and done things from short-sightedness. It's simply part of maturing along. So we'd be hard-pressed to find someone who hasn't defended a belief or spouted some rhetoric that they no longer believe. And at least anyone who's lived long enough, I would say. So unless we can learn to live with more compassion and grace, we'll all continue to suffer. And like Annalise was saying, we live in a world where it's important to allow people to speak freely without silencing them because we disagree or because their words are abrasive or we find it offensive or whatever the case may be. We have to learn to have grace and compassion for where people are in their journey. So even when people say things that gives us all the ick, even when it's like cringeworthy, to be able to hold space for them at their level of consciousness. Because if we can't do that, then we'll just continue to suffer and perpetuate evil because it's evil trying to drive out evil, and it just never works. And I think this is why A Course in Miracles is so transformative if you actually do the lessons, because it's designed to shift your perception and raise your level of consciousness. I mean, if you're actually working it, the miracle is forgiveness, and it's not the kind of forgiveness that church peddles. It's a radical forgiveness that acknowledges that the perceived wrong never even really occurred, because who you really are cannot be wronged, and who they really are can do no wrong. It's, once you shift your perspective in that sense, the egoic game dissolves and clear seeing emerges. And I know I've said this before, but it's worth repeating here. Jesus began his ministry with the words, repent, for the kingdom of heaven is at hand. And that word repent is metanoia, and it literally means go beyond the mind. So it's about a radical shift in perception. That's what we're called into. And so unless as a collective we can start shifting into that Jesus way, that Christ-centered way, Christ consciousness, and have compassion and grace for people right where they are, then, I don't know. I mean, we're either going to self-destruct or we're going to shift into the next, dimension is the way I see it. There's just no other way. Like I said before, you pull a rubber band back far enough and it snaps. So something has got to give.
I think that's what this is. I do think it's like the light coming to dark and the next big transition for humanity, and the second coming of Christ within all the hearts of the people who follow Christ. That's the only way out of this. You're right.
Yeah.
I just want to say, just out of respect, that since we are sitting here, kind of dissecting these very heavy deaths, that my heart goes out to the families, the friends, the supporters of all these people. And we don't claim to know the truth of every little thing that happened. And we're not here to figure it out for anybody, but just to say, love one another, and may this time unite us, not tear us apart.
Very well said. I couldn't have said that better. And I think that's the prevailing message here, is that we need to have grace and compassion for where everyone is. And just hold space. In a world where everyone has an opinion and everybody's jumping over everybody to make a point, to drive home their point, I think we, yank our hands back, put them on our hearts and go, no, this is what's important. So, yeah. Yeah, well, before we close out today, I want to thank everyone who has supported the Rabbit Hole. We appreciate you all so much, and we're steadily working on creating a community side of things. And just a reminder, if you want to join the Burrow, which is the community aspect of Transcending the Rabbit Hole, the Patreon link is in the show notes below. For only $10 a month, you can help support the endeavor and have access to bonus episodes like this one and community offerings. We're also working on a website that will house everything moving forward. It's still in process, and Parker's doing a fabulous job with that. So thank you, Parker.
Yeah.
And if you haven't already, please hit the subscribe button. If you're listening on Spotify or Apple, leave us a review. It'll really help us out with the algorithm. And if you enjoyed this episode, spread the love and share it with your friends. Thank you all for transcending this rabbit hole with us. As always, cosmic blessings and peace.
Do you ever grow discouraged by the weight of this world? Does Big Brother get you down with all the lies that he's told? Does the gloom and doom of nightly news haunt your dreams? So you scroll instead of sleep, 'cause distraction is key. But as long as there is still a sun up in the sky, I can choose to live on the sunny side. It's somewhere between burying my head in the sand and falling down the rabbit hole again. I was sleeping just fine peacefully inside my American dream, awoken when those puppet strings were cut right off. The evidence you can't ignore, sheriff call you misinformed. I know the truth, but trying not to lose my mind. I'm somewhere between burying my head in the sand and falling down the rabbit hole again. It takes a worried man to sing a worried song, and the state of humankind had me humming alone. Hello, common sense, I'm convinced we've lost our way, sold our attention to the system. Now there's power to reclaim, but as long as there's a heart beating in my chest, I'll cling to hope that's true. I will cast out the rest. There's no price on peace of mind, oh, and you won't find it here. It's sunny side, always on the sunny side. Keep on the sunny side.